want to start this episode off with a little bit of story time with your good old buddy, Long the Sane. Once upon a time, several seasons ago, maybe about a year or so ago, Red Orange Midrange was one of the most popular and also one of the most reviled decks in all of Mythgard. It was fast enough to get underneath the control decks, grindy enough to wear down the aggro decks. Nobody seemed to have a good answer for it. As a result, it got really popular, it was all over the ladder, and hence all the vitriol that was kind of directed towards it. In fact, this deck was so dominant, I covered a tournament for 983 B-Day at the time. I looked at the stats, I looked at the matchups, and wrote an article about it. Of the 28 decks that were registered for the tournament, 4 of them were Red-Orange Midrange, and in the top 8 of that tournament, 4 Red-Orange Midrange decks. So right from the deck registration, you could punch your ticket to the top 8 just by registering Red-Orange Mid. And along the way, it had an absurd 75% win rate among all 4 of the decks. So yeah, nobody could figure this thing out. Nobody could really stop it. And rightfully and mercifully, Rhino broke out the Nerf bats not long after that, took away some of its tools, particularly on the aggressive side of things with this deck. And since then, the archetype has not been the same, but it is still varied from good to very good in the metagame. It's still been kind of a fixture within Mythgard. So today, I wanted to take a look, now that we have a couple of expansions out, and I wanted to see if this archetype is still good, now that Winter War is still out. Now, the way this deck works, it's a very quote-unquote grindy sort of deck. A lot of one-for-one exchanges, a lot of trading off of minions. We're not looking to dominate the board so much as we're looking to just keep up with the opponent, not let them get too far ahead. And once we've gathered enough resources in terms of board advantage or card advantage, once we've positioned ourselves to be able to turn the corner and swoop in, that's exactly what we're going to do. So there are a few tools in the deck that will help us do that. First and foremost, we got our path, Journey of Souls. When one of our minions dies and it does not have ephemeral, it'll put a soul onto our path. Once we've gathered 3 souls, we can cash them in and put the bottom mini in the boneyard back into our hand. So, stuff that dies, we'll be able to get back eventually. And if we're making a lot of one-for-one trades, that's just more and more stuff we're going to get back. And the way we take advantage of that is just by putting a lot of good value minions in here. We put in minions that we want to play over and over again. For example, we can play Sign of Pride a second time, get another Pride of Place token. We can play Parry at the Gates a second time, and we'll be able to draw another card. Magmatar, we can play Magmatar a second time, blow up the board again. Or even something as small as Eager Recruit, just being able to get another recruit token off of it. Just very good value through and through. A lot of stuff we don't mind playing over and over again. But along with our path, we have a couple of enchantments that are going to help us out as well. One such enchantment is the To Heaven and Back. When an occupying non-angel minion dies, return it to its owner's hand with Agile, and mana cost reduced by 2. It's now an angel permanently. And the other enchantment we have is the Stairway to Hades. That's why this build is sometimes referred to as Heaven and Hades. I can bring it up here. My interface means stubborn. Good enough, I guess. When an occupying non-demon minion dies, return to play with Frenzy. It is now a demon minion permanently. So both these enchantments are kind of doing the same thing, even though they are kind of going about it different ways. They're both giving us the advantage by taking what would normally be a one-for-one even exchange with our opponent and turning it into our favor. So in the terms of the Stairway to Hades, our minion stays on the board. It now has Frenzy. Our opponent minion dies. And with the To Heaven and Back, our opponent's minion will also die in that exchange, but ours will go back into hand, and we'll be able to play it out again. And in both cases, we'll be able to get the Awaken triggers off the 2 of them. So that's another way we're going to build value over time, is by playing minions on these enchantments and taking those one-for-one exchanges, turning them into our favor, and that's slowly going to help us turn things into our favor to give us an advantage over the opponent. And if you look at the deck list, which I will make sure to leave a link in the description below so you can check it out for yourself, you won't see too many surprises in here. Like I said, just a lot of good value minions. Of course, we're playing red, so we're going to have some rush minions. We got the Daring Trapezist. We've got Wings of Abaddon. both of those can take advantage of the path or our enchantments by being able to, play them out again, getting in for a quick attack with them again, and just good value minions altogether. Just stuff, like I said before, we don't mind playing over and over again. 2 cards I did add in here from the new set because I wanted to try and see if I can improve it with Winter War. One of them is Brine-Bound Believer. I know this card is a bit divisive, to say the least, in the community right now. Some people think, it's maybe a little bit too powerful. Others love the card. And me personally, I know it pushes the envelope a bit in terms of power. It kind of toes that line between, really, really good value and just being overpowered. Personally, I think this card is fine. I think there's enough reasonable answers in all the colors to be able to deal with it, that I don't think it's warping the meta in a way that, you're having to put bad cards in your deck just to deal with this one in particular. So I think Brine-Bound is okay for the time being. My opinion of that might change over time, but it is just a really powerful card, so I wanted to see if it would work in this build. The other one I added in here is Vesti Virago. This is just another good value play. It's a 2/7 with Lurker and Deadly, and each time we attack, it's going to put a Gorgon's Fang onto our board, and the Gorgon's Fang is going to drain once from the opponent, and we're going to gain 1 life. So this is another minion I wouldn't mind playing out multiple times, and if we can attack with it a few times, we'll get a couple of Fangs going. We'll be gaining life, we'll be draining the opponent, and if our board gets stalled out, this might be a way to still push damage on the opponent even if we're not able to get through ourselves. So I want to try this card out. And the other thing to be kind of conscious of when playing this deck, if you look at To Heaven and Back, it does say when an occupying non-angel minion dies. So there are a couple angels in here. Sign of Pride, of course, is an angel. And the other, more obvious one, Armageddon Angel. Oh, what do you know? It happens to be an angel. So they will not work with To Heaven and Back. However, they will work with the Stairway to Hades. And as for Stairway to Hades, that reads when an occupying non-demon minion dies. So the only demon we have in here is Wings of Abaddon. That will not work on the Stairway. However, it will work on the To Heaven and Back. And the only card that doesn't work on either, at least I don't think it does, Jezeri Aquarius. I'll admit, I did not do my homework beforehand. I did have, when I was testing this deck out, I did have one interaction where I played it on the To Heaven and Back, and instead of bouncing back to my hand, it just flipped over into Parse of Divinity Cannon. So I'm guessing the results are going to be the same with the Stairway to Hades. I believe this card's trigger takes precedence over the enchantments, so it's going to flip over to the Parse of Divinity Cannon and not come back in the hand. But it's just a good, powerful card all around, so I'd rather have it in the deck. If I'm wrong about that, leave a comment below. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's how the interaction works with it. And that's really all I've got to say about this deck. So let's start testing it out. Let's dive into a couple of games and see how the deck does. Alright, our first match is against Orange-Blue Rough Rider combo. I swear there's blue in my opponent's deck, even though it doesn't really look like it. In turn 1, I'm just going to play out the Eager Recruit. That's an easy turn 1. So that Tree of Life means I'm not going to be able to get in for damage, but there's a Storied Martyr. So the play here is going to be to burn a red and then play the Daring Trapezist. Always a good idea to put a rush minion on the bottom of your Boneyard. That way you can attack with it the turn you get it back, put it back into play. And there's a couple more Storied Martyrs, so when one of these Martyrs dies, it's going to pump up the other one. So I'm not going to be able to trade with both. I'll just take out the wall and just play straight Panacea. So at least this way I'll be able to trade with one. And then the other one, if it wants to crash in the Panacea, that's fine. There's Xerxes Agitator. That's going to put a Lookie into their hand. There's the Lookie. There goes Panacea. And now this is going to pump up the other rebels, so unfortunate, but nothing that can't be handled. And there's the Daring Trapezist we just got back because we played it on the bottom of the Boneyard. Xerxes Recruiter. Swing and a miss. At least I know I'm getting the Stairway to Hades next turn. Give us some information. And there is my opponent's Rough Rider, so let's talk about the combo real quick. The way this combo works, if you haven't seen it, is if you notice Rough Rider's ability, it costs gems, but it does not cost any mana. So you combo this with the Allfather's Horn, which costs 7 mana. And what you can do is you can spend all your orange gems to pump her up, play the horn, replenish all your gems and your mana, pump her up again even more, and then you get 2 attacks with her. So basically it just makes a huge giant minion with overrun, and it's often a 1-turn kill with the Allfather's Horn. So turn 7 is going to be the important turn. If there's a Rough Rider on the board and they draw their Allfather's Horn, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I want to keep those Rough Riders under control. But for now, I don't have really any good trades to make, so I'm just going to play out the Stairway to Hades. Hopefully Recruiter will hit something this time. And another swing and another miss. Don't get a minion. I mean, there's only like 5 non-minions in this entire deck, so variance is just not on my side right now. Hopefully I'll get the bad variance out of the way and get the good variance later, because that's totally how it works. But there's another Rough Rider. Again, I don't have any good trades, so my opponent's getting ahead on board. I'm going to play the Okadodana in front of one of them. That way I can trade with at least one of them. And there's my Armageddon Angel, so that may just be the ticket out of this mess. And I forget the name. Mimir Reborn. Prevent us from drawing extra cards. Get in for some more damage with the Recruiter. Here comes Angel. Let's wipe the board clean. Take the Rough Rider off the table. And look what the opponent just top decked. If I can bring it up. There's the Allfather's Horn. I hope this highlights the importance of playing first. It feels good to be able to get the pursuit when you go second, to get, the coin or the tree or whatever you get for going second, depending on your path. But going first, if we had gone second, we would be dead right now, because we got to play out our Armageddon Angel before they got to go off with the Rough Rider combos. So glad I knew about that combo. Also glad that we went first in this one. So it looks like the variance is starting to shift back in our favor. To play out the wings, but that Panacea does have ephemeral, so it's not going to come back with the stairway. But at the very least, I'll gain some life and draw a card. Fork Lightning, that's going to take out the wings. There's another Rough Rider. I believe that is now the 3rd one the opponent has played. Put the Recruiter in front of it. Hopefully I can get something to stop it. And there's the variance. We used up all the bad variance earlier. Now we're getting the good. So that's going to take out that Rough Rider. So no combo for you, opponent. Yes. And here comes yet another one, but they're using it to block. Just to try and not die. We'll make the trade there. Make another trade. Get in for a couple. Put down Aquarius. We're able to keep up the pressure. We have lethal on board, and the opponent's going to pack it in. They don't have a way to really stop us. So the turning point in that one was definitely the Armageddon Angel. The opponent was a little bit ahead of us on board, but once we were able to catch up and able to get things under control, we were able to start swinging for the victory. So we made a lot of one-for-one trades. You saw early on that paid off by getting the Daring Trapezes back. And we were able to do enough to keep those Rough Riders off the board, keep them from comboing off. So this is a good grindy match, and the Stairway also helped us out a little bit. Would have been nice to hit a card with the Recruiter, but we were still able to get some extra damage in with the Recruiter because it had Frenzy. So that was a good grindy match with this one. Let's check out another one with this deck. For this match, my opponent is playing mono red, so we'll see how this deck fares against Aggro. And unfortunately, I don't have a play on turn 1, so it's just going to be Burn the Angel, pass the turn. Opponent burns their wings, plays out Carney Rider, plays out their Trooper. So because of that information and the path that they're using, that tells me they're playing a very aggressive deck. So rather than play out the Trapezes, I'm going to lean on the Rye Trickster. That does a good job at slowing down Aggro. If it can stick to the board for a turn 2, can see in this case it does not. And I targeted the Carney Rioter, but because of Carney Rioter's ability, it's still able to get in for damage even though it has 0 power. Now I'm going to play Trapezes. I'll trade that with the Acolyte. Get another soul on my path. And also prevent the Acolyte from flipping next turn. There's a Trapezes for my opponent. There's a Vulcan Blade Gorger for them, so opponent's just kind of chipping away at us, getting their damage in like a good aggro deck. They've got a nice wide board. Although they're almost out of cards, they're down to just 2, so I'm hoping they're going to run out of gas and I can turn the corner. But there's the Ichor Feast, and you can see the opponent has another one, so they're not going to be running out of gas anytime soon. Opponent just getting in for more damage. They choose not to attack in my Queribus, so I'll take out the Blade Gorger, get down my Cannon. With their smaller units, hopefully Cannon can give us some control. There's Vestai Virago. Alright, Crimson Pact takes out the Cannon. Vestai still has that board blocked off nicely. Hopefully next turn I can start attacking, get some fangs, start draining life from the opponent. Right, Trickster comes back from the Boneyard. There's a Daring Trapezist. Now I can play out the Right Trickster, target the one minion that they have. And things, I think, are starting to look good. It looks like we might be turning the corner. They're running out of cards again, but here comes another Ichor Feast. So my opponent gasses up again. There's another Ignition. This Right Trickster has seen enough fire for 2 lifetimes. So the opponent's staying away from Virago. Probably a good move on their part. Vestai gets in again, so now I have 2 Fangs, so hopefully I can start draining 2 life per turn from the opponent. I'm going to play out both my Muses. If they want to trade into both of them, that'll give me some card advantage. Hopefully I can hit an Armageddon Angel or something that'll help me control this board. There it is. So next turn I can just play the Angels, sweep the board, and oh, my math isn't great, but yeah, that's lethal. So the opponent is just going to burn me out and finish me off before I can deploy the Angel. And I wanted to show that match because I think it highlights one of the weaknesses I found with this deck. The go wide sort of aggressive decks, kind of tricky for it to deal with. When you're looking to make 1-for-1 exchanges, that can be good to grind against mid-range and control. But with go wide aggro, they really don't care about the trades. They're playing your stuff away from you. They're still able to get in enough damage that those 1-for-1 exchanges don't mean anything. So you may need, Magmatars, you may need Armageddon Angels to deal with it. Just something to keep in mind for this deck later. Might need to make some upgrades to it. But yeah, just wanted to show off that weakness. Go wide aggro, kind of tough for this particular deck to deal with. So unfortunate in that one, but let's look at one more and see how the deck does. For this last match, we are going up against orange-green mid-range. Going to just burn the Parry the Gates to start, play out the Eager Recruit. And my opponent's going to play a Rebel Partisan to start. So unfortunately, I don't have the Daring Trapezes, so I'm just going to burn another orange card, play out the Xerxes Recruiter. Oh, now you show up. Oh well, I'll just trade into it with the Eager Recruit anyway. Get a soul on my path. Born Again. I'm not real excited about trading the Recruiter or the Daring Trapezes into it, since Born Again is just going to go back to my opponent's hand anyway. So instead, I'm going to play Right Trickster and play the Recruit token next to the Born Again. That way, if they attack with the Born Again, it'll just die. Both my minions will live, and if they don't, I'll just trade the token into it, keep my 2-power minion on the board. Dune Courser, so they're coming for my Trickster. So of course, Trickster is going to have to mark the Dune Courser. There's the trade with the Born Again. I'm going to burn the Stairway to Hades, play out Parry at the Gates, but I still have the To Heaven and Back in hand. And I think the play next turn is going to be to play the To Heaven and Back on the Parry at the Gates. They play a parry of their own. Now I'm more than happy to play it out because, like I said during the intro, this can turn a 1-for-1 exchange into a favorable trade for us. So their minion will go to Boneyard, ours comes back into hand, and we can play it out again next turn. So we didn't really lose much of anything from that exchange. Plus, we'll get to draw another card off the parry. There's a Marty Core. There goes my Trickster. Of course, it did mark the Doom Courser, so that's going to get the penalty. We're going to show off the power of To Heaven and Back again after I play out the parried gates. Because now I can play the Daring Trapezist, crash into the Marty Core, finish it off with the Xerxes Recruiter, and then I get to play my Trapezist out again. This time Trapezist has Agile, so hopefully he'll be able to dance around something before being taken out, getting a little bit of extra damage. There's a Flag of the Resistance. And there's Leshy Green. So my Brinebound is going to die no matter what I do. And at this point my opponent has so many cards, I think I want to prioritize getting some card advantage over getting the Brinebound back into hand. So I'm going to hop over with it. I'm going to play the Panacea on the To Heaven and Back instead. That way when it dies, I will at least be able to draw a card off of it, and then I can play it out again and get another card. You see the opponent obliges, takes out the Brinebound, takes out my parried gates. There's another Marty Core, so we're getting kind of torn apart by those Marty Cores. Seal of Exile is a good pickup. There's a straight Panacea back in the hand. Now I'll just play her out again so she can block. Then I'm going to play the Seal of Exile, get rid of the Marty Cores. That seems to be one of their primary ways of getting down some removal, so I'd rather have that gone. Now Leshy Green's going to get the penalty if it does attack into my Panacea.
This is my weapon.
There's another parry at the gates for the opponent. We did draw into the Armageddon Angel, so I have that as a backup plan. Crash into the Leshy with the Panacea. And once again, Daring Trapezist. Put the power on it, take out Leshy. Put it down again, get in for more damage. So again, a ton of value off of this To Heaven and Back. I didn't have anywhere else to play Recruiter as we swing and a miss with it. We're getting Dark Passenger next turn. It does have Ephemeral, so it won't come back, but I didn't have another good place to put it. There's Sariel. There's the Born Again. And my opponent left themselves open to lethal. Daring Trapezist, because of the To Heaven and Back, has Agile. Then just power up the Right Trickster, get in for that last bit of damage. So, another good grindy matchup. We were able to keep our opponent from getting too far ahead on board, make those 1-for-1 exchanges, and the To Heaven Back paid back over time. You saw we got a couple Daring Trapezes to make trades, then played down on the board, got it for damage. When it had Agile, it was able to slip in for a little more damage before being taken out. Straight Panacea, we were able to gain some life. We were able to draw a bunch of cards off of it. And just over time, we built up enough an advantage over To Heaven and Back, and I was left with a Armageddon Angel and a 7-ring Ritual in hand, and ended up not needing either one of them to finish off the opponent. So, another good match. Let's go back to the deck screen, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this deck. Overall, I would say if you're looking to climb the ladder, that red-orange mid-range feels like a very viable way to do it. This deck felt very good overall, felt very reasonable. It felt good against the other mid-range decks. It felt good against Control. As you saw from the second matchup, it does struggle a bit against Aggro, but I think that has more to do with this deck needing some fine-tuning than it has to do with the archetype itself. Some cards I would want to make changes to. Brinebound Believer. Brinebound feels really good in red-green mid-range, but in this shell, not so much. He's pretty underwhelming. Like I said in the intro, all the colors seem to have reasonable ways to deal with them, and I'm finding that out very quickly with this deck. Feels like he gets answered a lot and does get to really do his thing. The other card I've been underwhelmed by is Vestai Virago. So the two cards I added in from Winter War, neither of them have felt particularly great in this deck. Virago I would describe as a card that's aggressively mediocre. It never feels bad to play it per se, and it does have some good qualities to it. However, there was really no situations in which it felt really, really good to play. So it's just kind of operating on a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 all the time. Feels okay, never great though. So this may be a card I need to swap out. And, I'll give credit to the design team at Rhino for the fact that It doesn't need cards from the new set to be good. Like, this may be better off with old cards. They're not just power creeping the new sets. They're trying new and different things. And yeah, like I said, this felt good. This felt solid. This felt reasonable. If you have any suggestions for how to make this deck better, feel free to leave a comment. And I, of course, like I mentioned earlier as well, I will leave the link to the deck list in the description below. You can check it out for yourself. You can try it out, make the changes. But overall, red-orange mid-range, it's not the dominant force that it used to be by any means, but it's still a good, solid deck to play around with on the ladder. So that's going to be it for me today. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.